Today, the most vital part of the organization is information. The person who holds the right information at the right point of time is the richest person on earth. Data refers to raw facts, figures, and statistics that are lacking specific context or meaning of their own. The types of database model that comes into picture, starting with the hierarchical database model, where we're going to talk about the parent-child relationship. Good morning and welcome to the first session in Unit 3, 4th semester BBA, Information Technology for Business, where we're going to talk about database management system. Probably the most interesting part of information technology, or rather what we call the computer science, is all about earning and learning that database. Why do I say earning database? Today, the most vital part of the organization is information. The person who holds the right information at the right point of time is the richest person on earth. So what does database management system hold for us? Database management system is a software that is used to manage the data from the database. It acts as an interface between the database end users or application, ensuring the data is consistently organized, easily accessible, and secure. These three words are very, very important for us as we are speaking. One, because it starts with the word called organized, accessible, and secure. Now, very crucial part of database management is that you need to keep the database particularly in one way, in one fashion. That means it needs to be organized in such a way that it is easily available to you whenever you want it. As business progress, we go through a lot of information in terms of transaction, in terms of invoices, in terms of business activity. But what we forget at times is that to maintain that database. So the more you are organized in terms of managing the database, then you become more better. You go up to a level where you can maintain, where you can run the organization successfully. The next thing is it easily accessible? Now, we don't want the database to be leaked out. We want the database to be secure, no doubt about it. So I will come about security later. But the first thing is accessibility. When you want that particular information, when you want that particular data to be let out, to be known, then it should be accessible. That means it should be readily available. It should be easier for you to use. And the security, of course, the data needs to be secured. You can't afford it to be thrown out everywhere. So the most important thing is it's a structured collection that is stored in electronic device. So these days we are all in the mobile friendly world. So all our database will be stored in the mobile phone or in the laptop or in a handheld devices as we are speaking about. But nevertheless, this is what the world of database welcomes you, because everywhere we are going to have some or the other kind of data, which is either in the form of text, video, image, or any other format. Let me move further and try to introduce you to a relational database table which will store all the database in the form of key value pairs. Now that will allow to create and retrieve data in an organized way. We have a relational database. We have something to do with the MongoDB, the Cassandra, Dynamo database, and other factors like the Redis. What is a relational database? First of all, data, is it related? That's the most important question that you need to ask. The answer is yes. Why? Because each and every data that's used in the organization is somewhere related to the other one. So which means to say that when you say the database or the entity named as name, it might be related to age, it might be related to the gender. So all these factors are quite interrelated. A is related to B, which is related to C. So relational database, how is one data related to another is very, very important. Without that, we will not be able to do it. So that is very, very important for us. This is a relational database as we are talking about. Now, this is a software that allows to create, update, retrieval of data in an organized way, which means to say that it will provide you a security to the database in such a manner that it's completely secured. You will not need to move it here and there. You will need to keep it in a proper format so that you're able to access it and you're able to get the value as and when you need. Now, there are many examples for relational database, starting with MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, Snowflakes, and all those factors that comes into picture using the Cassandra, Dynamo, and all those Redis. All those kind of factors are interrelated. That's very, very important for each one of us as we are trying to know about this. Now, the next thing is that data refers to raw facts, figures, and statistics that are lacking specific context or meaning of their own. Like, for example, when you just type that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or when you write a name like John Doe, or you're going to write a name of a place or any other thing. So data is only a raw fact and figure. Now, unless and until that raw fact and figure is addressed in a particular way, it is being put in a particular order, you will not be able to get the value at any point of time. So it is highly mandatory for all of us to understand that the database has been kept in a particular way, in a particular standard altogether, so that we will be able to address it, we will be able to take it the way it has to be done. Now, many times we would also feel that, the database is trying to get itself into a meaningful form, into a meaningful notation altogether, but nevertheless, the database doesn't come out so easily. Why? Because unless and until you add meaning to it for a useful decision making, the database analysis cannot be made. So it's very, very important for each one of us to understand how to bring in that piece of information into it and try to understand the entire database. Now, the other thing which I would always like to talk about here is that if you're going to attach some values, that value has to be meaningful in nature. Like, for example, if you're going to talk about customer age and that of the insurance policy, yes, they are related. So somewhere the relational factor of database has to be brought in, and then it will be easy for us to understand the entire flow. The next thing about the database that we are talking about is that it is the types of database model that comes into picture, starting with the hierarchical database model, where we are going to talk about the parent-child relationship. Now, for example, if let's take the ideology of classroom. Under the classroom, there will be students. Under the students, again, you're going to divide it into male and female students. Now, there might be different structures altogether. Now, what we are doing is that we are trying to bring in a relationship here. So, class is considered to be the parent. Students are considered to be the children. So, this is how the relational database comes into picture. Now, why this is important is because where each child will have only one parent. That means every student will belong to only one class. There might be different subjects, but then when I speak about the class, yes, for example, I belong to 10th standard. I belong to 12th standard. So we all belong to one class. So one parent, one child. That's where we are talking about this hierarchical model. Next one is called as a network model, an extension of hierarchical model that allows the child to record to have multiple parents in terms of supporting complex relationship. Yes, when we are going to talk about the network model, you will try to understand how to move from one end to the other factor. Now, let me just draw a parent here. Now, this particular person might be related in many ways. That means to say that there are many different ways the database is related. So, for example, a person can be a teacher, a person can also be a father, a person can also be an employee, a person can also be a mentor. So, which means one person doing multiple roles. So, there is a complex network or a hierarchy that is created. Similarly, let me go to this word called as relational database, where data is organized into tables which consist of rows and columns relation. The tables are linked by common fields used to manage the relationship, basically in the way how SQL will be easy for surviving or taking out that database. Now, how does this work altogether? Suppose I want to find out the name of a student who is studying in a science batch in a particular college, and I don't know his name. Obviously, that's why I'm searching. So I might have a link such as if I have the register number, or if I have the batch number, or if I have the combination. So I could just put in that query and I can shortlist the names, the likely names of the candidate whom I'm searching for. So what is relational database trying to do? It is trying to connect the different factors that are related to the data. So when you put it in tables starting from serial number, name, age, roll number, which class he belongs to, combination, then his phone number, parents ID, email ID. So what we are trying to do is that to that one entity, we are giving multiple relations so that the data can be retrieved easily. The next thing is that we're going to talk about an object-oriented model, which means to say that they are represented similar to that of an object-oriented programming, bundling the data and the methods that are operating on that, which means when I say it's an object, I will point it out to a particular method. So let me say that this is the data. So there is a pointer, there is a concept under which the entire information is being stored. So this is also a very, very important methodology that we are using in the modern days to understand the database. Now, as we go further, we have the NoSQL method, which is described for unstructured or semi-structured database like the MongoDB, where a key value or column is being used, and using that you can utilize the graph database. So what is it all about? Why does it come into picture? This is talking about the horizontal scalability as we are talking. Now when I say horizontal scalability, which goes like this, where you are able to go from one entity to the another entity, and there are wide columns and graph database that we are talking about. Now, this is a semi-structured, which means to say that it will not be fully structured, fully synthesized as what you are looking in terms of the object-oriented or a relation database model. Rather, when you look into the NoSQL model, you will be able to understand it is offering a very, very flexible scheme. So what it typically does is that it does not follow any particular pattern to retrieve the database. What it will try to do is that it will only try to make you understand where the database, how it is working, and how do we need to go about it. Now let's talk about a graph model, stores data in terms of entities and their relationship, ideal for social networks and fraud detection. Now, a graph model is where I would say that the entities and relations. So what happens here is that I know where the fraud detection, but I cannot manipulate data. I know from where the source is coming, who is the source, how things are working out. Each and everything is being given there. So that makes this entire database even more secured, even more interesting altogether. So that's why I look into it in terms of this factors of understanding how the database works. Now, introduction again, when we come back here, we are going to talk about the users retrieving and other functions. So let me just quickly go further to make you understand the difference between the file management system and that of the DBMS. Now, most of the time, the data redundancy is one of the most important and interesting factors that we start seeing in DBMS and that of the file management system. They are highly duplicated data in many of files because we do not keep track of all the data. So there is a time or there is an opportunity when data gets completely duplicated. Now, there are times when we start thinking about DBMS, it is low. Why? Because it reduces that duplicity. And you would see that it's a centralized data. So in a DBMS kind of cases, we reduce the factor called as the reduction in terms of the DBMS factor, where the duplication is completely reduced, and we are looking in for a much more pristine data. Now, data consistency, you can see that all of them have copied up or mixed up here and there. So that's why in file management system, the consistency of data is very less. Whereas when you start seeing the consistency in DBMS, it's high, and the constraints ensure that there is a complete dependency. Everything is kept up to the mark. So that means DBMS scores better than the FMS. Data sharing, it is limited and difficult to manage. Now, that's a very, very big concern there. But here, it is efficient and controllable, which means to say that when you are talking about DBMS, you can manage multiple data. You don't have to worry. Second thing is that you don't have to know about the factors of how this data is going to work. It can get easily moved. It can get easily done altogether. So coming back, when it talks about the security, this is less secured, and compared to this provides more secured features. So that's why people like to prefer for a DBMS altogether. Similarly, when we are talking about the backup or recovery, the manual and time-consuming factors. This has got a lot of time-consuming factor, whereas when we look into this automatic backup or recovery mechanism, you would see that in DBMS, it's able to recover back, it's able to store the data by itself. You don't have to worry about how the data works there. It is very, very less complex. The one thing about the file management system is typically you are arranging the files one above the other or in some pattern, whereas in the case of DBMS, it is more complex because the software has got a lot of things to manage. So this would look a little bit complicated to as and when that we have been talking about. Now, as we move further, we also need to understand the advantages and disadvantages of the DBMS. So the first thing is that the data is centrally managed, allowing multiple access. So it's a very big advantage as we are talking, because it is stored in one position, but you can access it anywhere from any point of view. It has reduced data and inconsistency. So no duplication issues at all when we are talking about in terms of advantages. It has an enhanced integrity and security factor. So it is very well enforcing in terms of qualifying the data, managing it, and you can restrict it from unauthorized access altogether. Backup and recovery, an automated process that ensures data safety and system recovery after the failure. So this is highly, highly important for all of us in terms of knowing it. This will help you to build up that system to, maintain that entire factor. You don't have to worry about how to build it across, how to, take it across and kind of things, but this will actually help you to build the entire system. So this is very, very important for each one of us to understand how the system works and how we are able to build it without, getting confused or without even getting into those complexity. Automated process will definitely help it to recover from all the failures. So in case if there's going to be a data crash or something, definitely there's a backup and recovery system. And because you have enhanced data security and integrity, it controls and it also provides you the access that is needed for the right usage of the database. Disadvantages, of course, there is a huge amount of cost that is involved here. It is quite complex to handle. The performance overhead is also, might be on the higher side because it tries to introduce a lot of factors and higher impact of failure. Suppose if there is going to be a data crash, now the entire system might crash down. So we need to get arranged, or rather we need to get ready for all kind of activities that we are talking about. And as we talk about the disadvantages as we are going in this factor, we also need to understand that it is not going to be as simple as we are talking about, because there might be changes, there might be challenges coming on the way in terms of managing the failures. Now, the other thing is data warehousing and mining. As we are talking about, data warehousing is a process and system for collecting, managing data from various sources to provide meaningful business insight. Now, this is a central repository designed specifically for a fast query analysis, support, and business intelligence process. Data mining, the process of discovering patterns, correlations, anomalies with large-scale databases stored. All these factors actually use these learning machines algorithms. So data warehousing is a very, very interesting process which can be used to provide lot of meaningful business insights. Why? Today, when you look into the corporate business, there is a lot of quick decisions, cross decisions rather we have to make, and we have to make it in split seconds. So specifically when you're looking in for that particular query to be answered, we can use this data warehousing with the business intelligence concept that will help us to understand and answer the queries faster. Now, let us look into the data warehouse mining. So you have an operational system here. There are about 4 or 3 operational systems with flat files located. They will get into the extraction where we will extract the information from it. We have a data warehouse, a metadata summary that will be located, that will be completely stored here. Then we have an online analytical processing analysis we have a data mining that is here, and we have a reporting structure here. So what is happening is that we are able to understand how things are moving from one end to the another. So this is very, very important for us to understand how the entire process of data warehousing and mining is happening, through which the entire data is getting collected, through which the entire system is getting attached all together. So this is how the data warehousing and data mining is playing a pivotal role in terms of building the enhancement of using information technology to take the business to the next level. Now, the need for warehousing, because you have to manage large volumes of data, so you definitely need this data warehousing, which is a very, very important factor. Enhanced analytics. The database transaction and analysis, the complex analysis as we are speaking about today, is going to the next level in terms of thinking, in terms of activities. And whenever we are talking about centralized database storage and warehouse, this combines multiple level activities and tasks. So that is also very, very important for all of us as we are understanding the database. So this is where this entire concept of data warehousing comes in. It is a centralized storage. It enhances your analytics. It gives you to manage large volumes of data. All these things are a very big positive for the companies today. So they always look in for data warehousing. And the data mining, we also try to talk about the trend analysis and business intelligence support, because when we are talking about it, we also know that what is the current trend that is going on with related to a particular business, what is the business intelligence reports that are getting, the tools that gives us the insight about what is happening in the business, how we need to improve ourselves, where we need to give more investment, more trust, all those things comes over here. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that all the facts and figures that we have spoken will be of a great help to you, both in terms of theory and in practical walk of life. In the upcoming session, we will be taking a deep dive session into database management concepts. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed. You have a great day ahead. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.